My name is Steve Stroop, and I'm the pastor of the Lake Point Church in Rockwall, Texas. And today we're talking about how to raise additional resources to support the missions that your church wants to be involved in. Now, of course, the first thing that you can do is to make sure that missions is included in your regular budget. Most churches have a percentage of their budget set aside for missions. And obviously you can continue to let that grow, but let me suggest some other ways for you to provide resources. First of all, give your people an opportunity to give to missions every single week. And you can do that by simply adding the slot on your offering envelope that says missions. On our regular offering envelope, it says general fund or general ministries. Second of all, it says building fund, and then it says missions. The very fact that you have that blank on your offering envelope, there are people who will give to missions who wouldn't normally give to missions. And there's some of your people who are passionate about that who would like to do that. Now, I will say this, some of you are afraid to do that because you're afraid that your people are going to take the regular money that they would give to your general budget and move it over to missions. And what you may not understand is that that's a different pocket. There's actually 5 pockets that people give out of. The first is the general fund pocket, and there are people who are rule keepers, mostly builders in terms of generation, who will give faithfully to that. But there are many in your church who are not motivated to give to the general fund. And they're not going to give to the general fund even if that's the only offering that you're taking. There's a second pocket, and the second pocket is the building fund. And there's some people who just want to see physically, brick and mortar, what they're giving to. And if you'll give people an opportunity to give to the building fund on a regular basis, they will give you money that they wouldn't give normally. And then the third pocket is the missions pocket. And again, because you have that on there, there are people who will give to the general fund, they'll give to the building fund, but they will give additional money that they wouldn't give when you give them the opportunity to give to missions. The fourth pocket is the pocket of compassion. And once again, there are people who will give to compassion offering who won't give to any of the other offerings. And there will be people who will give to the compassion offering who have already given to the general, the building, and the mission. And then finally, the fifth pocket is the designated pocket. And pastors are really afraid of that pocket because they're afraid that the people, the congregation, will dictate where all their money is going. But there are people who will give to a designated offering. For example, you could give a list like we do once a quarter that says, here's some things that we would have included in our general budget, but we were not able to do so. If you'd like to give a designated gift to these items, then you're free to do so. And for example, one of those items might be a laptop computer for the youth department. And the fact that there's someone in your congregation that has students in your student ministry and they understand the value of IT, they might write you a check for 2 laptop computers for a total of $3,000 when they would never give $3,000 to the general fund. Now, I believe that if you give people an opportunity every week to give to your general fund, your building fund, and your mission fund by putting those 3 blanks on the envelope, then what you could do is you can take a compassion offering once a year, and then once a quarter you could give a list to your people of needs that people can give a designated gift to. And I call that directed designated giving. And here's another idea. You can actually put some of your mission needs on that designated list as well. It's another way for you to raise revenue for mission giving. Now, you can raise revenue for your mission by putting it in your general budget. Second of all, you can give them the option to give to it on a weekly basis by putting it on your offering envelope. And then the third possibility is to take up special offerings. I know many of you who are watching this still do a December offering for missions. You might call that Lottie Moon, or you might call it Annie Armstrong, or you might just call it our annual mission offering. And anytime you give people an opportunity at the end of the year, especially in December, when people are thinking a little bit more about taxes, you're going to have an opportunity to raise additional monies for missions. In addition to a December offering that we take every year that we call our annual offering, we also take a Christmas Eve offering. You say, well, Steve, how can you take an offering all of December and then take an additional offering on your Christmas Eve? Well, the reason we do that is we take it up for a slightly different cause, a different pocket on Christmas Eve, and that is that we take it up for Compassion Ministries. And there's some of you who are involved in doing some direct mission support for either local or foreign compassion ministries, and you can actually raise additional money for your compassion missions ministry by taking that extra offering. And the truth is, on Christmas Eve, it's become the second Easter. And there are people who are attending on Christmas Eve that don't normally attend your church who are more than willing to give to a compassion offering. In fact, it's the one offering you can take that even non-believers are not going to be critical of, because they see that you're making a difference to meet the physical and the emotional needs of people who are in your community or outside of your community. And then the final thing that I'd like to talk to you about may be brand new to you, and that is to include missions in your capital campaigns. There are a lot of our church members who push back when we start to build more buildings, and they ask the question, why are we building more buildings when there are people around the world who don't even have a building to meet in? Why aren't we giving this money to missions? And we actually got this idea from Bryant Wright, who's the pastor of the Johnson Ferry Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, when he told me years ago that they always tithed off of their capital campaign. In other words, they gave 10% of what came in to build their next new building, to build a building somewhere else in the world in terms of the mission effort. And so for many years, we've been tithing our capital campaign. And this last campaign that we were involved in, we gave 20% of our capital campaign to mission endeavors. And as we look toward the future, this next capital campaign that we will be involved in, we will be giving 30% of everything that comes in to missions. And it's become one of the primary sources for us to raise new money for missions. Finally, let me talk to you about two very important concepts. The first concept is the concept of partnerships. Over the last decade, we have found that we can do more with other churches in providing national church plants than we could do just by ourselves. And the way that that works is that we pull together 10 or 11 other churches, and we've all pooled our money together and pulled our brain power together to say, how can we do a better job to establish a church plant in an under-resourced part of the United States. We've been able to plant several churches in New York City and a church in Las Vegas and Portland, Oregon, 3 right now that we're planning in San Francisco. And by pooling our resources, we're able to have a regional church plant that then can turn around and plant other churches and serve as a model for churches that are successful in that particular area. And what happens when you join with other churches, and that means that there's plenty of money that's for that church plant, but it also means that there's a multiplicity of coaching, mentoring, sending of mission teams, and that has worked very, very well, and we feel like it's a good model for church planting. The second concept that I want to talk to you about is direct participation. I know that you want to continue to send ample amount of money to our convention, or to a convention that you may be a part of if it's not the same one as ours, to provide a kind of support that's necessary to have a bold extension of missions across the nation. But I also think it's very, very important for individual churches to be involved in direct participation of sponsoring mission projects, not only here in the continental United States, but around the world. Because when your people travel and they see what you are doing, when they're personally involved, their money will follow their heart. Their money will follow their passions. And what will happen is you'll raise a lot more money because your people have been directly involved in those partnerships. Now again, to summarize, I believe that you can raise more money to provide resources for mission by, first of all, increasing the percentage of your general budget that's going to mission. But you'll never be able to raise as much money as you need to raise by just doing that. In addition, I want to suggest to you that you give your people an opportunity every single week via your offering envelope or your online giving by giving them the option to give to missions every week. Thirdly, I think you ought to take regular special offerings. And don't overdo that. Don't be having a special offering every month. But if you'll take those key times, like the December time frame, I think you can take an additional offering for missions and you can reap a lot of end of the year tax gifts. And then finally, you can use your capital campaign, a percentage of that, to inspire your people to give to missions while they are building the base that will provide mission giving for years to come.